Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here. We're talking Qliphorts in this video, and I feel like now is a really good time to make this video because Qliphorts have been out in the TCG for a couple of weeks, and I feel like most of us have either played against the deck enough times or have played the deck itself that we have a good understanding of how the deck really plays, how it really functions under normal competitive situations. There's no more need for hyperbole bullshit of how the deck looks under the perfect situations. I mean, remember Asian Eyes' like initial build of Qliphorts that had like 3 towers and stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? So anyways, I've come to the realization that I actually think I love Qliphorts, and I know that that might piss off a lot of people because they think the deck is broken, but it's more or less because of the deck's playstyle, not because of how competitive the deck actually is that I like it. And one thing I've learned from playing against Qliphorts and watching the deck play so much is you can pretty much forget that nonsense about Qliphorts being an OTK deck. I mean, you can ask anybody who currently plays it. It occasionally OTKs, but that's not your bread and butter. It doesn't consistently win by OTKing people. So if you're trying to pick the deck up and you're thinking I'm going to OTK everybody I play against, I mean, you best forget that notion. Now, I think that a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this point, which is perfectly fine. But I think when you really look at the makeup of Qliphorts as a deck, I personally believe that they are just a pure no-nonsense beatdown deck. And I mean, you just have to look at the evidence. Look at the cards that they have and look at the cards that they actually run in the deck. I mean, they main 3 skill drains so that they can essentially simplify the game into I have tons of beat sticks and you don't, so I win. One of their main support cards that they run in 3s gives them an attack boost and also makes it so they can't die in battle. And their opening play usually is to just summon essentially a vanilla 1800 guy and pass. Like, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, if that's not a beatdown deck, then I don't know what is. And people often will make fun of slow-paced beatdown decks. You know, they say, oh, they don't take skill, and they call them helmet decks. But I think that what is lost, especially to a lot of newer players who don't understand that, you know, a lot of older players like myself, you get a nostalgic feeling when you run a pure beatdown deck. And that's mainly because that's where this game's roots are. If you look at the beginnings of Yu-Gi-Oh, you know, back in the dark ages of Legends of Blue Eyes, Metal Raiders, Magic Ruler, all of those older sets, up until basically Pharaonic Guardian, every deck that people played was a beatdown deck. And there weren't a ton of ways to special summon monsters. I mean, there was like ritual summon and a special summon. Like, nobody ran fusions back then because they were just butt. So I think that there's something beautiful about simplicity and the beatdown decks like Evil Sworn and Bujins, and their emphasis on controlling the battle phase. It feels like when you're playing a beatdown deck, you're getting back to the basics of Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's something that I really like. It feels like it's something very unique to beatdown decks, something that you don't necessarily get out of, you know, some of the fancy special summon crazy effect decks. And I can speak from personal experience, it is infinitely gratifying when you essentially say to your opponent, I'm going to summon a 2800 beater and I'm going to beat the shit out of you with it, and you can have all the fancy monster effects you want because your 1200 weenies aren't going to do a damn thing to stop me. And the great thing about Qliphorts is it shows that beatdown is going to be a viable win condition moving forward, because I honestly thought that Bujin was going to be the last of a breed. Like, I thought Bujin was going to be the last like tier 1 beatdown deck ever in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Qliphorts are kind of like the new age of beatdown. I mean, they've essentially been power creeped into being competitive, and now we have a deck that isn't very complicated, isn't very convoluted. Yes, they have some, you know, just obligatory effects when tributed, but more or less those are just kind of like icing on the cake. Like, most of the deck is you're just summoning a bunch of beaters and just beating the crap out of your opponent. And yes, I do feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that I do think that the pendulum mechanic is broken. Obviously, being able to, you know, exhaust resources, they go to the top of your extra, and then you just get to special summon all of those resources for free every single turn. That's a little just silly and obviously broken, but I'm not gonna hate on an archetype that I would clearly love under any other circumstances. So, you know, it is what it is, I guess. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'm out. Subscribing makes life happy.